Hello everyone, my name is Sheel and I hope you are doing good today. Today I'm going to talk about a distributed application framework or a platform called Yarn. We are going to write a native Yarn application today. For those of you who have worked with Apache Spark or are in the area of big data, you must have interacted with Yarn one way or the other. If not Yarn, you must have used some other cluster manager, for example, Mesos or maybe Kubernetes these days. There have been other cluster orchestration systems as well. For example, Docker Swarm or Cloud Foundry's Garden Container and the Diago setup. The idea is the same though. If you have an application that consists of n tiers or for that matter a microservices based application, you would intuitively think of wanting to host them in different machines, individual machines for n components of an n-tier architecture, or for a microservices based application. It can be costly. So use VMs. But can we still do better? The answer is yes. You share the machine or the VMs between two or more components. But what if the two components want to share the same port or run different versions of the same underlying platform, for example, Java? And that's how containers evolved. They have a separate set of processes, a separate namespace would be the right term to use. They have a separate namespace of processes, file systems, networking. Um, so with all these different within the same machine or the VM, now you can run the containers, each having their own set of the process namespace or the file system namespace or the networking namespace. Now, I still need more than one machine though. Yes, I can share a machine or a VM between more than one components of my application, but might in all probability need more VMs to share for the rest of my components, for example, in the microservices architecture. Now I have, for example, three VMs for my 10 Spring Boot jars. That's my microservices that constitutes my application. Um, but now I need to constantly monitor. I, as a human being, constantly need to monitor that the machines do not go down. In a production setup, chances are less. Agreed. In a cloud setup, the chances are even further less. Agreed again. But can we still do better? Can we do something about it? Can we automate the monitoring of these containers, ensuring that they are always up and running, and eliminate even that last chance of systems going down? This is where cluster managers come in. Now, you set up a master machine. It's pretty intuitive. You set up a master machine and you shoulder it with all responsibilities that you were handling so far in the absence of the master machine as far as monitoring goes, for example. And you set up agents in the machines where the containers are running that will keep collecting and giving statistics to the master and obey the master's orders. Yarn goes one step further and allows you to write your own master, known as the application master. We'll see that shortly. Yarn has its roots in the Hadoop team trying to sort out their burnout issues with the job tracker. So the Yarn concept that they came out with brackets Hadoop jobs in the class of any distributed application, thereby opening up opportunities to write other distributing applications on the same cluster. For example, Spark jobs or Flink jobs, for those of you who are familiar with Apache Spark or Apache Flink, or you can even write your own native applications like the one that we will do. So that's a small intro. Now I have this diagram in front of me. It's a representation of what a Yarn framework or a Yarn application Yarn platform looks like. So if you see, this machine consists of the setup consists of four machines, which is the resource manager, which is like the master that we spoke about, and then there are three machines, which are the worker machines or the slave machines or the agent machines. Now, this resource manager is the one which keeps collecting statistics from each of the workers and decides it gets a sense of how busy a machine is, and if there is a chance to if there is a chance and if there is a need to spawn another application on one of these workers. So, like I said some time back, each machine needs to have agents installed, which will keep gathering statistics about that machine and keep sending out to the resource manager. So, we spoke about the resource manager. The agents that we are speaking about, that we are talking about right now, is the node manager. So that is pretty much what a Yarn application, a Yarn platform of Yarn, the Yarn framework looks like. Needless to say, I mean, and when I say needless, I'm assuming the people who are watching this video have some familiarity with what a Yarn application looks like. May not be a native Yarn application, but something like a Spark application or a Flink application. It gives you some sense of what might be going on underneath. So, because this is a cluster and they are all interacting with, they are all interacting as a unit, it makes all the more sense to have a common file system, and that common file system is the HDFS. That's one way of looking at it, until you go into the chronology of events and figure out that the HDFS file system was not a reason, but it was one of it was already there and it evolved into something like Yarn. So that's another way of seeing it. But if you let go of the Hadoop history behind it, and if you look at a cluster orchestration as a whole, you would to some extent agree that if a cluster is is operating as one single unit, it makes all the more sense to have a common file system. So let's look at it this way for the moment, because we are not talking about Hadoop jobs, none of that. So now that I have a cluster with me and a cluster manager, which is the resource manager here, so this resource manager is ready to rent out machines, which are the workers that you see over here, the node managers. Now, I have my application. The way it typically works in a Yarn application is that if I have a distributed application with me, and I want to launch that, I want to run that distributed application and say, this is where all my jars reside. All I need to do is to first make this cluster familiar with all the jars that my application needs. So the first thing that I would do is I would put all my jars in the common file system that this Yarn application, this Yarn cluster shares, which is the Hadoop distributed file system. And then I'm going to use a client connector to the resource manager, and the resource manager is then going to start my application. In case of Yarn, like I mentioned moments back, Yarn gives you the space to write your own application master. So when I connect, when the user that who wants to run his distributed application connects to the resource manager using the client, the resource manager looks for the application master that the user is ultimately intending to run, and it spawns a container in one of the node managers, and from there on your application master will decide which components of the application to run, when, in what order, and how often. So that is pretty much how a Yarn application on a Yarn cluster works. So we are going to now write a short, very simple native Yarn application to give you a sense of how it works under the hood. And for those of you who are in the area of big data who have written Spark jobs, it should give them a good sense of how things work underneath when they write Spark applications. So let's get started. So this is my Eclipse IDE. I have prepared a small example of a sample Yarn application, a native Yarn application. I am right now on my POM XML to give you a sense of the dependencies that we need. if we are going to run this on a Hadoop cluster, a yarn cluster, um, it goes without saying that all these binaries that we are listing down here in the dependencies section will anyway be there. So I do not need to bundle them along with the jar when I run the jar on the cluster. So Hadoop Yarn client, pretty intuitive. You need to interact with the Yarn client. So that is needed. You need to interact with Yarn, the resource manager, and you need to have a client for that. So for that matter, you need the Hadoop Yarn client binary. You need the Hadoop Yarn APIs to be able to talk to the resource manager and the node manager. And to be able to interact with the file system, you need the Hadoop Commons as well. So with that said, we can now proceed to writing the client, which connects to the resource manager and asks it to install to spawn the application master. So to go over this one more time, I have a distributed application. My jars are in on the edge machine. I want to leverage the Yarn cluster. I therefore use the Yarn client to talk to the resource manager. The resource manager looks for the master of my distributed application, which is the application master, spawns that application master in one of the containers, and then gives all the control to my application master to decide when to spawn which worker and how often. So that is what a Yarn application looks like. With that, we can now start writing the client program, which connects to the resource manager. So this is where the journey begins. Now, I have so if we look at line 46 here, this is the command which the application master will ultimately run. Uh, this could be any command. This could be any executable. It could be a simple shell command. It could be a Java application. It could be a Python application. It could be anything. It could be anything. In my case, it's going to be a simple shell command, but it could be as complex as anything that you want it to be. So I can take this command from the executable to be ultimately spawned on the worker machines as a command line argument from when I run my client program. And I also have to specify the path on the Hadoop file system where I ultimately upload my application master jar. Once you do that, the steps are very intuitive. The first thing is to start the Yarn client. You start the Yarn client, which is from line 49 to 53. It's more of a code walkthrough than anything else here. You start a Yarn client. You have a bunch of classes that you have to instantiate, and the classes are pretty intuitive by themselves. You start the Yarn client. You create the Yarn application. When you say you are creating the Yarn application, the first step towards that is requesting the resource manager for a new application. This is the step which marks the starting of the resource manager taking a look at the statistics which it has to ultimately see if there is space to add a new application master. But for that, it needs more details. So the next detail is to launch to create a container launch context class. So this tells you what your container looks like. So let me bring up this diagram to give you a better sense of what we are trying to achieve here. So this is the diagram, and this pretty much summarizes what our client program is trying to do. So we were here when we last were on the Eclipse IDE. This is where we were. We were trying to create a container launch context. All that the container launch context does is collect all the information about what your container ultimately needs to look like. The resource, this points to the application master jar, which will ultimately be used to run your application master, the app environment, which is the environment variables that if needed to set for your application master to run, and then the actual command which runs your application master. So these are the only three things that you need to set in the launch context, the container launch context. Once you do so, let me go back to that piece of code which illustrates on this entire the bigger set of configurations that encompass the container launch context. So here we are. Like I mentioned, I first create the container launch context. I then create the app master jar. It's a local resource. So all I'm saying is download. So what I'm trying to say to the this message is for the Yarn cluster manager, which is the resource manager. Now, how the Yarn cluster manager ultimately, which is the resource manager, how it ultimately talks to the node manager, where this application master will ultimately be launched. How does it relay this information to the node manager is left to the resource manager itself. But the idea is you create an app master jar instance, a local resource instance, that is, you configure that object with the information about where to find the path to the application master jar on the Hadoop distributed file system, because if you remember, we had uploaded our application master jar on the common file system for the cluster, which is the HDFS file system. So when the node manager ultimately is selected by the resource manager to run the application master, it needs to know where in that common file system does the application master jar lie. Once you get that, you have to set the application master is downloaded to the node manager where it is ultimately supposed to run. Now, along with that, there are a couple of other parameters that you need to set. Like you see over here, the size, the timestamp, the type, and the visibility. You have a choice to set one or more of these options. So, in short, you launch the launch context class. Inside the container launch context, you have to set the app master jar. I'll show you the lines of code. We are not using the lines where the container launch context, where we are attaching the app master jar information and the environment information and the ultimate command which needs to be run we have not attached it yet to the container launch context class. So if we just go by what we are seeing on the screen right now, we created the container launch context instance. We next created the app master jar. We configured all the information about that app master jar, the location, the visibility, the type, the timestamp, the size. The next thing that we do is we configure the environment, like I spoke about in that particular diagram. We are setting the environment variables for that particular application master. The next thing that we do is we are specifying the capability of the particular. Okay, so let's skip lines 86 to 89 for the moment and jump to line 91. Line 91 is all about setting the command that I spoke about. So if I show you the diagram one more time. So the container launch context class needs the local resource, the app environment, and the command. We created the local resource, that's the app master jar. We created the app and we set the app environment, and now we are setting the commands. The command which is ultimately going to execute the app master jar in the environment that we have specified. So this is all. So if you think about it, if you have worked with containers before, I'm sure you would have. That is pretty much all that a container needs. For example, in a Docker container, this is what you need. So that's all we are doing here, but in a programmatic way. So back to the code, just a one-liner. When I say this is all that we need, there's a bit more than just that. But in all practical sense and purposes, in our case, this is all that we need to run our native application. So now the app master jar is set, the environment variables are set, and the command to be run is set. Now I have to attach all these three pieces of information to the application master container, which is a container launch context. And this is where I do it. I have already attached the command. I'm attaching the resources now, and I'm attaching the environment now. So this part of the story is complete as far as the client program goes. Now, the next steps. We now have to create the information which needs to be ultimately submitted to the resource manager. That information is put inside an object called the application submission context. So right now you are only talking about the container, but then you need to give some more information which is not container specific, but which is about the container, which is like the application name, the capability of the container, that is the memory and the number of CPUs that you want to allocate to this particular container, the application type, which is yarn in our case, and the queues, whether you want to run it in a priority queue or a default queue. So these are the various options that we need to specify, and that's what we are going to do next. So back to the code, we have provided all the information about the container launch context. Line 86 to 89, which we had skipped earlier, we can bring that back now, and we are setting the resource configs of that particular container. And when I say the particular container, this is all about the application master, because this is the client program which is trying to talk to the resource manager, and the resource manager wants information about the application master only, nothing else. So this is the information about the application master. So one more time, the container launch context is set. The capability of the content of the containers are set as well. The memory and the CPUs. The next thing that we do is we go ahead and give the name of the of our distributed application. We set the application type and we set the queue. So this is all that we need to do. And at last, now that we have all the information that we ultimately need to submit to the resource manager as part of a request, we submit the application. The good thing is you get an application ID, and you can use that application ID to get the report and keep tracking the state of your application from the client. So it's not like the application operates behind the closed doors without the client knowing anything about the status. You can continue to know about the state of your application. So that's all about the client.java. So now you have submitted a request to the resource manager to run a distributed application. And the first thing that the resource manager on receiving the request looks for is the application master info only, which we have provided in this client.java program. Now, assuming that the application master has taken a look at, the resource manager has taken a look at the statistics that it keeps collecting from the node managers. It has been able to figure out one machine which is free, and it spawns an application master in that particular machine. So effectively doing this, that is, an application master is now running here. The application master is now tasked with the duty of orchestrating the spawning of the actual components of the application. So that's what we are going to do next. In our case, it's going to be a simple shell command, which is going to get executed in one of the workers, in one of the three machines. So what now happens is, now that the application master is spawned, it will ask the resource manager for yet another container for its components to run, and the resource manager will one more time take a look at the statistics that it has and decide another free machine, and it will give the details of that machine to this application master, and then the application master is going to connect to that machine, for example nm2, and it will submit the request to launch a particular component in our case, the shell command, execute that shell command in this particular machine. So that is all what it takes to run a distributed application on Yarn. So let's get back to the program. So here we are now on the application master. The application master, again, the steps are very, very intuitive. The first thing is to create a client to talk to the resource manager. The next thing is to create a client to talk to the node manager. So which is from lines 31 to 40. So the application master needs to talk to the resource manager to submit a request for a container to be launched in the node manager. The resource manager responds to the application master with the IP address of the node manager that it in turn needs to talk to, and which is when the node manager client comes in handy. So the next step after that is, once the resource manager launches an application master in a node manager, in one of the worker machines where the node manager is installed, the first thing that the application master program needs to do is to assert back to the resource manager that it in fact has started. So this is what happens in this particular step. Once this is done, only then the application master is allowed to submit requests for any containers. Next, you can set the priority of your application. We can skip this for the moment. The next thing that we do is we are setting resource capabilities for the individual components of our application. In my case, it's going to be a simple shell command, so I'm doing that right here. But I can do that individually for each and every container. So if you look, I am now in the next step of batch collecting my request for containers and sending them to the resource manager in one shot. So in my case, again, the number of containers are 1. It's just going to run one single shell command. And so this loop runs only once. Now, if this had 10 containers, all of them would have been granted the same set, in which case, and if the same resource requirements wouldn't have sufficed for my, if the same resource configurations wouldn't have sufficed for my requirements, I could have as well moved this piece of code inside this loop and could have configured it per container. So now that the request has been batch collected, I will now proceed to actually make a request to the resource manager. Now, once the request is made and the containers are starting to get allocated, I can loop over them one by one and start spawning the jobs, the components individually. So it's again very intuitive now. If you look at this particular piece of code between line 65 and line 80, the requests are being made, the containers are being allocated, and I am looping over the containers one by one. In my case, again, because it is one single container, it is going to launch this particular piece of command in my worker machine. So this is what is going to run inside of my container. But had I had some 10 containers, each of them would have run the same thing. But in a more complex application, it can be different components. I could spawn Redis in one container, and I could spawn another database in a different container, and I could have spawned a web application in the third container. So that is what this specific set of statements do. And at last, I'm going to actually make this request to the node manager client. Like I said, the container response that the resource manager returns to the application master has the information about the node manager that this node manager client needs to get configured with in order for the application master to be able to communicate with that particular node manager. And it then passes the context to the container launch context to the appropriate node manager. And the node manager, the same theory, it runs the application as asked for. In this case, it's simply running a shell command. This as well could have this node manager as well could have had the need to download resources from the common file system, and run it on run the particular application on that particular node manager. So now that the applications have been the application requests have been submitted to the node manager, and in all probability they are going to get started, I can start tracking them. So the moment I can start tracking them, I'm getting into the area of managing the containers. The application master is now starting to manage the containers also. It can keep tracking the status of the individual containers, and if one of them fails, it can replace it with a new container in some other machine, or maybe in the same machine, depending on the machine that the resource manager asks it to spawn the container in. I can auto scale as well in case I feel that the statistics are not good enough. I can auto scale my application as well. I can scale my application as well. So this is what a very simple Yarn application looks like. So all I've done now is I've already created an EMR cluster on my AWS account, and I have already uploaded my jar there. All that I need to do now is to run that particular jar. I have now there are two ways. Like I mentioned, you ultimately have to upload the application master's jar into the common file system, which is the HDFS. In my case, it is one single jar. The application master.java and the client.java both are in one single jar. But that should not be a problem, because I haven't specified any main class file inside of the jar. So as long as the application master is inside of the jar, it doesn't matter how many more files are there inside that jar, because I'm going to invoke only the application master. And the client.java is going to stay on my edge machine. So let's go and start running this on the EMR cluster. The reason why I've chosen the EMR cluster is because it by default includes Yarn. So that helps me, with getting down to my with getting to run my Yarn application without having to worry about setting up a whole cluster. So let's do that next. So I have SSH'd into my machine, and I'm going to submit so this is the edge machine, and I'm going to submit my request to the resource manager to run my application. So let me show you the jar that we already have over here. I've already uploaded my jar, and I'm going to now run the application. I'm going to submit a request. When I say submit the request, it means that my client.java is going to run and make a request to the resource manager. And from there, the resource manager will start running my application master in one of the in one of the node managers in a container, and then the application master takes the control of my application, which was the intention. Let's do that. So the command for running a Yarn application is this: Yarn jar followed by the name of the jar, which has my client class, followed by the command that I want to run. I might as well skip this because I have already hard-coded the command, which is the echo command, followed by the link, the URL to the resource manager running on port 8020, followed by the path to my application master's jar. And if you notice this is an HDFS path. I have already uploaded this into my into my cluster's HDFS file system. What I can do is, instead of going there, executing this first, I can show you that I have already uploaded my application master jar in the Hadoop file system. So let me do that. -ls. And as we see, the application master is uploaded. So now I can run my jar. And the application completed successfully. But how do I know? So I can go to check my logs, and the statement for that is this is the identifier of my application. So these are the outputs from the container that ran. And if I scroll somewhere, I should be seeing, hi, how are you? So this is where we see this, and this is what our intended output was. Now, in place of this, this could have been a very elaborate Java program on the node manager. So that's what we tried to do, and that's what we have achieved. Now, with this having been said, there are a couple of points there are a couple of thoughts that I want to put out, and those are as follows. So, if you noticed, like I said, the executable in our case was the echo command itself. So, but now I can have various flavors of this distributed application. I can have a closed application master that decides all by itself when to spawn a new component in its distributed application. I can have a setup where I have a user facing web app, for example, that accepts a request and drops it into a queue, which then the application master picks up. Now, the application master is open to the world now. Now, it checks from that queue, picks out messages from, and then decides to create a worker based on the message retrieved. Or I can also have an open application master, which can by itself be a Spring Boot application for that matter. It can be a it can be a user-facing application by itself. So to the user, it's a Spring, it's a web app, and behind the scenes, it's the application master of a distributed application. So now this can accept a user request. This Spring Boot jar can accept a user request, and it can accordingly spawn a worker based on the kind of request that it receives from the user. Now I can create a range of workers from, like I mentioned, from from the most simple shell commands to running various apps. There could be a Java app, Java apps or Python apps. One small example, I can think of one small example as I'm speaking. It would be if I create a multi-tenant application where a user can subscribe to a list of features, which will therefore obviously, because it's a multi-tenant application, and if you are providing, if the application's nature is to have you subscribe to a list of features, it will vary from customer to customer, which means that you either write an if else static application which checks statically around what are the list of features that whether a particular feature has been subscribed to by a tenant or not. Or, because this approach sounds a bit crude in my head, the other thing that we can do is, in the case of an application, where a worker can, this particular application master looks at that request from that user or from the tenant, looks at the list of features which this tenant has subscribed to, and then it can compose a decorator object for that matter from the message that the application master retrieves using the reflection API. Just letting my imagination go wild here. Comprising of the features that the user has subscribed to, and then run the application accordingly independently. So now you do not have a static piece of code which keeps checking the if else part of it through the if else part of it. Now, the reasons behind such a distributed application, like I already mentioned at the start of the video, it could be different. I have an app to deploy on a machine. I do not have enough capacity, so I borrow other machines from a guy who is ready to give out machines on rent. In this case, in case of Yarn, this guy is the resource manager. Now, the moment I borrow machine, the cycles are desynced. So there needs to be an extra effort which needs to be made to orchestrate and rein in the otherwise, independent flow of the separate workers. And this is where the application master becomes a necessity. The example that I gave above is one such example. Now I can use like I said, towards the end of the application master code, I can go back to showing that piece of code. I can use this to get the status of the containers and accordingly control. I can rein in the flow of execution. Uh, Spark applications are another example that I can think of that fall into this category. It's basically n number of threads processing at least n blocks of information, which could easily outlive one single box's capacity, thereby warranting the need to rent a worker machine, one or more of the worker machines, moving the blocks of information there and installing containers that can hold and execute the same threads. In this case, in the case of Spark applications, we call them executors, but they are really nothing more than workers, which if it were not for the want of capacity, we would have been executing in the single machine. Uh, so Yarn as a platform for distributed computing gives you more control over the way you want to orchestrate your distributed application in the form of the application master, instead of treating it in its own way. So now you can custom control things and enter into the area of auto scaling resilience on the basis of the reports that you get from the resource manager. So so it's not like it's the most state of the art kind of thing. There are other cluster managers, for example, Kubernetes, Docker container, the Docker Swarm cluster. So the reason why I'm demoing this is because it gives you a very good sense of how cluster orchestration works, how container orchestration works, and for Spark developers and even for those who are willing to write native Yarn application, it gives you a very good sense of what you need, what is it that it takes to write a distributed application on a cluster. So that's all for now. Please do let me know your thoughts. Constructive criticism is welcome too. It's always nice to know the right way to go about things. Be scared enough of doing things wrong. That's the way I go about it. Thank you for your time. Bye bye.